Well, hello there, you beautiful, beautiful, amazing people. You're looking absolutely wonderful today on this terrific, terrific Tuesday. And it's my birthday. Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to me. Yeah, that's enough of that. Let's get straight into some meat and potatoes. As even though it is my birthday, I'm going to be talking about some meat and potatoes because a few people have reached out. Now, I did a video, I think it may have been yesterday, possibly the day before, and I put a link to a video from the law offices of Andrew D. Myers. And it was a video that contained it was a video with Forensic Frenzy, a document specialist who had gone through all of the Idaho 4 stuff and had an interesting theory. And I just wanted to touch on it because a lot of people, as I said, have reached out and said, well, hey, Harsh, what do you think? What do you think to this? This is what I think. I think that as much as we want to sit here, and this isn't me backpedaling, this is just reality, and that is as much as we want to sit here and say that Bryan Kohberger could be innocent, and look, we do that, or I do that, because I don't want to just condemn someone when I feel that there is not enough evidence to do so. I'm not saying that Bryan Kohberger is innocent. In fact, I have, for the most part, felt that Bryan Kohberger could have potentially been guilty or been involved in some way, shape or form. Yes, I have slipped the other way, but only because of the absolute fuckery around this case that makes you believe in the possibility that something went horribly wrong here. I'm not saying purposefully. It could have just been that with so much pressure on the police department and potentially someone saying that that's the guy that you need to be looking at. I know he did it, and the rest is history, and we find ourselves in the position that we're in today. Even though I do strongly believe that law enforcement can do things with a nefarious intent, I do believe that they are at times put under so much pressure that mistakes can be made. And this Moscow, Idaho situation is a boiling pot for such, because you have a very powerful entity in the University of Idaho. Pair that with the acquisition of Phoenix University in the background, this multi-million dollar deal, and then you've got the fact that the entire economy of this area is held up and supported by the University of Idaho. And this is one of those things that could be a catalyst to a very destructive situation that could affect the economy. So they want to protect everything. And when you pair that further with a billionaire who sits at the top of the tree around here, and Christchurch as well in there, and this seemingly behind the scenes battle of these two entities, yeah, it's a boiling pot. And when there are situations like this, we know that things can happen. We've seen it in the past. As much as I've said before, people want to stick their head in the sand, things happen. Evidence gets planted. People are coerced into saying that they're a witness when they're not, in order to form or concrete a narrative that law enforcement or another entity wants to push. It happens. But at the end of the day, Bryan Kohberger has found himself in a position where he is accused. And there are some elements to Bryan Kohberger's life and the information that we have that if you factor in that could indeed be accurate, then it does look a little bit bizarre, especially when you pair that with some of the activities that Forensic Frenzy had picked up in the court documentation. And I talk specifically about the fact that Bryan Kohberger had apparently done this post. He had reached out to people in order to do a study. It was a study to get inside the minds of would-be criminals or criminals to find out how they feel and function during these criminal acts. And when you think that he then goes on to be accused of doing an act himself, you can't help but say, Now, it could be, is there absolutely no connection whatsoever? Did that just further make him an absolute candidate for where he finds himself? And we still have to consider, why would he have been framed if he was framed? And when you think that you've got someone who'd done this study, He doesn't have an alibi. He is an outsider. He doesn't come from Moscow, Idaho. He comes from Pennsylvania. His studies were in Washington. So again, they're pushing the problem outside of Moscow, Idaho, rather than retaining it in. It's almost like, look, we've got these evil people have come to us, and we've seen this narrative being pushed by the likes of Steve Gonsalves. Even these evil outsiders come into our sanctum and fuck things up for us. And but let's step back a bit and understand that to be impartial, to be fair, we do have to consider the alternative, and that is that Bryan Kohberger simply did do it. And you know what I don't want to do is make it look like we are just supportive of evil people, because people pushes that on us all the time. You're a Bryan Kohberger supporter, you think he's innocent, and people come onto this channel, they don't watch the other videos. The fact that I've done so many other videos, too many some may say, fuck off. I get it, but people are coming into this case every single day. New people every single day. There are still people around this case asking questions that clearly makes you aware that they are either new to this case, or they haven't been paying attention, or they've been getting their information from sources that are just not credible, and they're not doing their homework. So until we get to a point where we can safely say everything is done, we've done as much as what we can do to help balance the scales and put the information out that needs to be seen. And if I have to talk about other videos that I find extremely powerful, like I constantly mention Get a Clue, a channel that I know not everybody can get on board with, but his information and the details that he puts forward are, if you're involved in this case, if you're interested in this case, then it needs to be seen. And if people can't go to him, or they don't like the format, then I will help push some of that information out so it gets seen. But look, Forensic Frenzy points out that around the time that Bethany Funke was talking about, or this exculpatory evidence situation, when the private investigator had come forward and said, look, Bethany Funke has information that is potentially, or well, he doesn't even say that. He basically goes on to say it's exculpatory to the client. She was interviewed multiple times, and during these interviews, she would go on to say certain things about that evening, about her experiences, what she heard, what she saw, and from that, it was deemed that what she said and saw was exculpatory to that. Now, what you have is a situation where just after that, and before we saw the grand jury situation come to light, they were then putting out search warrants for Reddit and such. So it would make you think that something was happening in the background, and it made them look at the Reddit post. It made them look at the fact that Bryan Kohberger had done this request to come forward. Now, it would appear that what Forensic Frenzy feels is that there is a potential that Bryan Kohberger did indeed do this crime, but he didn't do it alone. Now, did Bethany Funke see somebody else? And somebody else who does not look like Bryan Kohberger? Does she see someone in a different car, for instance? Did she see a different car parked outside and someone get out of a different car wearing the black clothing, for instance? Now, do law enforcement, are they aware that there is another person? We've seen this being mentioned in the background, this suspect vehicle 1, and we know that even Jules picked up on it recently and said, you don't have a suspect vehicle 1 if there isn't a suspect vehicle 2. So is there something else going on in the background where they know someone else is involved? And it pains me to say this, but it constantly fucking draws me back to Brent Kohberger. Now, again, I don't want to say that Brent Kohberger has done anything, because there's absolutely no proof that Brent Kohberger has done anything whatsoever. As it stands at the moment, he is just as innocent as what fucking Bryan Kohberger is, if not more so, because Bryan Kohberger is having the finger point at him. But in the eyes of the law, Bryan Kohberger is innocent. Brent Kopacker himself is deceased because he was taken out by a SWAT team after potentially, and I say potentially because there's no absolute definitive proof that it happened, that he was holding roommates hostage. But I wonder whether it wasn't so much that he was holding roommates hostage, but there was a reference to a statement being made by Brent Kopacker stating something about roommates. Now, was Brent Kopacker, was that misheard or misinterpreted? And was he talking about roommates who had been slain? And again, I'm just spitballing now. But look, people asked, and I'm coming forward and saying, yes, there does seem to be some movement in the docs around the time of the exculpatory evidence being mentioned, the Bethany Funke situation, and seemingly the prosecution all of a sudden getting an interest in what Bryan Kohberger was apparently posting online. So is it feasible that Bryan Kohberger was indeed looking for someone to do this? Someone he could potentially do it alongside or manipulate into doing it? Or was he just gaining a mindset to understand more about how he was feeling and what he was contemplating doing? It's certainly plausible, and it's not something that can be taken off the table. Time will tell, but again, this is about being fair, this is about being unbiased and talking about every single thing, every single element, so we're all aware what is actually out there, what we have to consider. And, you know, we're not saying anybody has not done anything or done something, but in the absence of facts, all we can do is speculate. And at the moment, there are so many facts that are missing and so many pieces of the jigsaw puzzle that are missing to form that bigger picture that we all want. It's our inquisitive minds. We want it. We want it. We're not entitled to it, but we do want it. But I do feel that when all is said and done and the curtain closes and someone does pay the bill, so to speak, then at that point, we should all be able to look back and know that this was done right, it was done proper, and the right person did actually pay the bill. Let me know down below what you think, and I'll catch you all in the next one.